Yeah guys, welcome back to another video. In this video we're going to be talking about how to solve quadratic equations using factorization. The reason why I wrote quadratic equation and factorization is because of the process of solving quadratic equation using factorization is the same thing as the whole method of factorization you will use anywhere in maths. It's the same technique you are going to make use of. Quadratic equation and factorization is the same process you are going to use. So here, what are quadratic equations first? Quadratic equations are equations that have their greatest power as 2. You can see this is x squared, 5s squared. But the most important thing we are interested in is that what? They have their power as what? 2. So anything that is greater than 2 is no longer a quadratic equation, it is polynomial. For example, if you have 3 here, that's polynomial. 4, 5, that's polynomial. But quadratic equation, we always have what? The greatest power will be what? 2 in the whole equation. That is what a quadratic equation is. And to solve quadratic equation, there are 3 techniques you can use. But in this video, we're going to be talking about factorization especially. So for our first example, we have what? 5s squared plus 26s plus 5. Now, the first thing you want to do in order to solve is to do what? Multiply the first element or the first term in the equation and the last term in the equation. The first term means everything in the first position, and this last term means everything in the last position. Usually, a quadratic equation we have what? Just 3 places. That is 5s squared, 26s, and 5. Here, we have what? 5s squared times 5. That will give you what? 25s squared. That's the reason for this arrow I'm using to indicate that what? We are going to multiply the first and the last term. So we have what? 25s squared. Now, what is the next important thing we need to do? We need to look for any number that we can multiply that will give you 25s squared. But when we add those numbers, we give us what is at the middle, which is 26s. So what number can we multiply that will give you 25 but add to give you 26? Let's first of all forget about the s. The main thing you should deal with is the number 25, 26. So what number can we multiply that will give you 25 but add to give you 26? For this, we can use what? The LCM method. The LCM method, you simply look for any number that you can use to divide this number, and then when you add or subtract the LCM and the remainder, we give you what is at the middle. Just look at this, you understand. Here we have 25. 25 divided by 1 will give you 25. If you add what the LCM here is what? 1, because we are going to multiply everything on the division column. If you don't understand LCM, watch my video so you can understand LCM. So we have what? 1 plus 25 will definitely give you what? 26. So that's just the basic knowledge here. When we solve more examples, you will understand this LCM technique I'm talking about. But it is basically what the LCM must add to the remainder to give you, or subtract from the remainder to give you what? The middle number. So now after having that, we simply replace the 26 with the factor of that number, or the factors that gave us 25. You know what? 25x times s will give you 25s squared, and then 25s plus s will give you 26s. That's why we're replacing the whole of 26s with 25s plus s, because it will still equate back to 26. I hope that is clear. We are simply replacing the 26x with the numbers that we multiplied, or the numbers that we multiplied to give us 25 that also added to give us 26x, and that's what we have here. So once you put that in, we are going to generate an equation that looks like this. After we have done that, we need to do remove everything that is common between the first two, that is the first term and the second term, and the third term and the fourth term separately. You see what I'm talking about now? Here we know that 5x can go in 5s squared and can also go in 25x. So we put 5x outside because of what? When we open this bracket, we are going to get what? Everything that is here. That's just what we are talking about. 5x times x, that will give you what? 5s squared. And 5s times 5, that will give you 25x. You can see that now. Here we have s plus 5. What is common between s plus 5? It is just 1 because there's nothing common except from 1. And if you open that bracket, we are going to have what? Everything here. If you've done everything properly, you are supposed to have what? This bracket the same thing as this bracket after removing what? The common factors, or what is common between the numbers. That is the first and the second, the third and the fourth. I hope that is clear. So now after doing that, we are simply going to choose one. Since these two brackets, they are the same thing, we are going to choose one out of it and then combine these two factors. That is what? 5x, and since it's a positive sign that is in front of 1, it's going to be what? 5x plus 1. That's why we have what? 5x plus 1 here. And then we have what? One of these brackets here. I hope that is clear. Let's move on to number 2 so we solve more problem and you understand what this is all about. Here we have 3s squared plus 7s plus 2. Again, the first thing you do is what? You multiply what? The first term and what? The last term. That's 3s squared times 2. That will give what? 6x squared. The next thing you need to do is what? Look for a number that we can multiply that will give you what? 6s squared, or just follow the number. Forget about the x for now. A number that we can multiply that will give you what? 6, but add to give us 7. If we use the LCM method, we are going to put 6 here. We know how 6 divided by 1 will give you 6. And then if you look for the LCM plus the remainder here, which is 6, we give you what? 7. So what? We are going to have what? 1 and 6 as the factors that you are looking for. So anytime you have 1, you simply replace that one with x, because of we have what? 6s squared, and we get our answer. And you put 6x here as well, just like you can see what here. After getting those factors, all you need to do is what? You use those factors to replace the number at the middle, because what? We have 6s plus s will give you what? 7x. So we are using those factors which we got here. We are using them to replace 7x here. So that's how we go about solving that problem. And then after we've done that, the next thing we need to do is what? We need to remove what is common between the first and the second, the third and the fourth separately. So we have what? 3s squared plus 6x. What we need to do is what? We know that 3x is common to 3s squared and also to 6x. So we are going to have what? 3x in front of the bracket here. And if you expand that bracket, you see how we are going to get the same thing as this. The same thing as everything that is here. 3x times x, that will give you 3s squared. And 3x times 2, that will give you 6x. Just as you can see there. Here, we know that what? We have s plus 2. And since you can see that s plus 2 and this one, they are the same thing, that means what is common between them is just what? 1. Because if you use 1 to open this bracket, you are still going to get everything that is here. Then remember what we do next. We choose just one out of these two brackets because they are equal. And then we combine this one, the common factor here, and the common factor here. Since it's a positive sign that is in front of the 1 here, we are going to have what? 3s plus 1, just like we have here. If you expand the whole of this thing now, it's going to give you what? Everything that is here. If you expand the whole of this bracket, we get everything that is here. If you expand the whole of this bracket, we get everything that is here. I hope that's clear. Let's go to number 3 and number 4 so we can solve more problems. So, for number 3, we have what? P squared minus 5p minus 24. Here is a little bit complicated because we have what? Negative signs involved. But the process is exact same thing. We are going to have p squared times 24. That is going to give us p squared times negative 24. That is going to give us negative 24p squared. Now what I want you to do is what? Forget about the negative sign so it's easy for you. Forget about what? P that is here, so it's easy for you. All you just need to do is focus on what? 24 and 5. Meaning you need to look for a number that can multiply to give you 24 but add to give you what? 5. If you are good with multiplication table, this might not take you a lot, but if you don't know multiplication table, you can follow the LCM method. Here we have what? 24. Now you need to take the smallest number you can find, which is 2, because we can't use 1 here. 24 divided by 1 will give you 24. get anything, you can't add 1 and 24 in a way that will give you what? 5. Or subtract 1 from 24 in a way that will give you what? 5. So we need to use what? 2. 2 in 24 will give you 12. If you add 2 and 12, you get 14. You subtract 12 and 2, you get 10, which is not the same thing as 5. So we need to divide by 2 again. 12 divided by 2, that will give you 6. Multiply these two together, that will give you 4. 6, if we add 6 and 4 together, we get 10. If we subtract 6 from 4, we get what? 2, which is not the same thing as what? 5. So we need to divide again. So we keep dividing until the LCM can either add to the remainder or subtract from the remainder to give us what is at the middle. That's basically what this LCM method is all about. So we are going to have what? 6 divided by 2 will give you 3. If you multiply 2 times 2 will give you 4, 4 times 2 will give you 8. And as you can see here, 8 minus 3 will give you what? 5. Which is exactly what we want. Now we need to learn to undo the sign. We know that what? 8 times 3 will give you what? 24. As you can see, 8 times 3 will give you 24, but we have what? Negative 24. What we need to do is understand how we change this sign so that we can get what? Negative 5. If you have a negative sign, you have a negative sign, or you want to get a negative number. Here we have what? 8 minus 3 will give you what? 5. But here we have what? Negative 5, which means we need to make what? The bigger number negative and the smaller number positive. So we are going to have what? 3 minus 8 will give you what? Negative 5. I hope that was clear. Let me explain that again. We have what? 8 minus 3 will give you 5, but here we have what? Negative 5. That means we need to make what? The bigger number negative and the smaller number positive. Since we have what? Since we want to subtract them, but we want to get a negative sign. So we are going to have what? Negative 8 plus 5. Negative 8 plus 3 will give you what? Negative 5, which is exactly what we want. So here, that's why you can see we have what? Negative 8 plus 3. Because when you say 3 minus 8 will give us what? Negative 5, which is exactly what we want. 3 minus 8, you can see will give us what? Negative 5. So that is exactly why we are changing what? We are flipping the sign around. And if you multiply this again, we are going to get what? Negative 24, because negative 8 times 3, that will give what? Negative 24. Now, we simply follow the same process all over again. And what? We are going to get our answer. We simply replace negative 5p with what? With what we have here, with the factor of 24. That, you know, if we multiply, we give you negative 24, but if we add it, we give you what? Negative 5. Just the way I've explained the sign, you know how to flip the signs around so that we can get what? The required number we are looking for. If you make mistake with this sign, you are going to get your answer wrong. That's why it's important for me to emphasize and re-emphasize this. If you make mistake with the placement of the sign, you are going to get your answer wrong. If you can't do that, you can simply use your calculator if you wish to, in order to get what? The factor. But if you don't have access to calculator, you need to learn this method. So what do we do after putting everything into place like this? You can see here that we just simply put what? Our p to our what? Number. We don't need to stress ourselves on p squared and p. We need to just forget about those ones and focus on the number alone. Once we do that, we can just put our p. We can distribute our p to the two factors, just as you can see here, p here, p here. If it's 1 that is here, we are just going to put what? P, just like you see in what? Example 1. So example 1 and 2. Here we have what? So after doing that, we are going to have what? P squared minus 8p plus 3 minus 24. Just as you can see here. Then what do? We need to remove what is common between p squared and negative 8p. So what is common between p squared and negative 8p is nothing but p. So that's why we put p outside here. And then we say what? Once we remove, we say p squared divided by p. That will give you what? P. And negative 8p divided by p. That will give you what? Negative 8. So if you expand this bracket now and multiply everything inside this bracket with p, you are going to get everything that is here. That is exactly how you need to check. So here we have 3p minus 24. What is common between 3p and 24? We know that it's no other thing but 3. So if we remove 3 from the two numbers, 3p divided by 3, that will give you what? P. 3p divided by 3, that will give you p. And negative 24 divided by 3, that will give you what? Negative 8. So if you've done everything right, like I said, these two brackets should be equal, just like you can see here. After doing that, you simply need to pick one of these brackets and bring it down, then combine these two factors outside. Since we have a positive sign in front of 3, we are going to have what? P plus 3. If we multiply this now, you will get your answer. You will get the whole equation above here. These are the what? Answer. This, by the way, is just factorization. We've not solved any quadratic equation. If we are supposed to solve this quadratic equation, then we are still going to equate this to 0. But we are going to talk more on that later on. I want to first explain the factorization method to you. For number 4, we have what? 12 minus 7x plus x squared. We first of all rearrange our equation so it looks familiar. We have what? X squared minus 7x plus 12. We rearrange our equation. When you are rearranging the equation, the sign remains the same. As you can see, we have positive sign here, we have positive sign here, we have negative sign here, we have negative sign here, and we have positive sign in front of 12. We also have positive sign in front of 12. So we simply multiply the first and the last term, just like we've been explaining. We are going to have 12x squared. Then we need to look for a factor or a number that when we multiply, we give you what? 12. But if we add it together, we give what? Negative 7x. If you are good with multiplication, you simply know that what? 7 times 3 we give, 4 times 3 we give you 12. 4 plus 3 we give you what? 7. But let's use our LCM method. We put our 12 here and we start with the lowest number we can find. We put our LCM and we start with the lowest number we can find. So we put 12 and we start with 2. 12 divided by 2 will give you 6. Can you add 2 plus 6 will give you what? 8. 6 minus 2 will give you 4. So that's not the same thing as what? 7. So we divide again by 2. 6 divided by 2 will give you 3. 2 times 2 will give you what? 4. 4 plus 3 will give you 7. And that's exactly what we want here. Now, as you can see that we have what? Two smaller numbers. We have what? 4 and we have 3. If we have 4 and we have 3 and then we have a negative sign, it simply means that the two numbers will be negative so that they can add together to give us what? A negative sign. That is, we are going to have what? Negative 4 and negative 3, because negative 4 minus 3, we add the two numbers together but give us a negative sign. That's exactly what you can see here. Negative 3, negative 4. I hope that was clear. Let me repeat it again. If you have a negative sign but the two numbers are supposed to add together, not subtract. You see here, when we were doing this place, the two numbers are subtracting. They are subtracting from each other to get what? To give us a negative sign. That is why the bigger number is negative. But here, the two numbers are adding to each other to give us a negative sign, which means what? The two numbers will have to be what? Negative. Unlike here, that one number is negative and the other is positive. 8 is negative, this one is positive, that gave us negative 5. Here is a different case. We have the two numbers adding together, but we want to have a negative sign because we have negative 7. So we make what? Negative 4 minus 3, that will give you what? Negative 7. It's important I emphasize that so it is clear. What do we do after that? We simply what? Replace the whole of this number with what we have here. After you putting your negative 4 and negative 3, you simply what? Put your x. So that's why we have what? Negative 3x and negative 4x. Like I said, just ignore this x squared so it's easier for you to solve. Ignore the x squared and ignore the x. Deal with the numbers first. And then you can just add the x to the two factors that you get. That will be straightforward that way. So after that, we do what? We replace negative 7x with the factors. That's negative 3x and negative 4x. And if you add these two together, negative 3x minus 4x, that will still give you what? Negative 7x. We only replace it so we can break it down to the smallest form. So here we have what? S squared minus 3s minus 4s plus 12. What do we do after this? We simply remove what is common between the first and the second and remove what is common between the third and the fourth. So here what is common between s squared and 3x? We know that it's not but x. So we're going to say what? X. We put x outside and then we're going to say x squared divided by x. That will give you x. 3x or negative 3x divided by x. That will give you what? Negative 3. So that is that for that place. Here we are going to have the same thing. What is common between 4 and 12? We know is what? What is common between 4x or negative 4x and 12? We know it's no other thing but what? Negative 4. Now, it's important to observe something here that what? we remove negative 4 from both sides, because if we don't do it like that, we are not going to have these two brackets equal. That is, we have negative 4x here. If we expand this bracket now, we have negative 4x times x. That will give you what? Negative 4 times x, that will give you what? Negative 4x. And negative 4 times negative 3, that will give you what? 12. If we just remove what? If we just remove 4 from this side, we are not going to get what? The same equal bracket as this. You understand what I'm trying to explain there? That is why we remove negative 4. And since we are removing negative 4, we need to change this sign so that what, when we multiply this, is going to give us what? The sign that is here, because negative times negative will give you what? Positive. So we are going to have what? Negative 4 times x, that will give you what? Negative 4x. And negative 4 times negative 3, that will give you what? 12. So after doing that, we choose one out of this bracket. If you've done everything correctly, these two brackets should be equal. So we are going to have what? Once we choose one out of that bracket, we have what? X. And since this sign is negative, we are going to have what? X minus 4. If you expand this now, you are going to get what? Everything that is here. That is how we solve factorization, and that's how we solve using factorization method. This is the basic and the first thing you need to understand when it comes to factorization. And it's important to understand this in order to be able to solve quadratic. Once you understand factorization, you can easily solve quadratic because it's same knowledge you are going to make use of. That's it for this video. Thank you very much.